Wasabi-kun told the protagonist that killing Bai would not improve his test score. Ling-Si asked if this was the case. Frowning, dagger in hand, he asked why he shouldn't fight both of them. Bai asked if he wanted to fight both of them at the same time. As he got to his feet, he cursed and shouted at him to stop acting so presumptuous. He said he could handle it alone. Wasabi-kun frowned, thinking that he had beaten Bai so badly, and that he was interested in this thief's skills. A dagger appeared in his hand and he said that he wanted to see if he had the skill to handle it. Bai turned around and asked if he had heard him. He shouted that he said he could handle it alone. Wasabi-kun told him that he could beat him, and he feels like a thief. Bai gritted his teeth. Wasabi-kun said that he has a threatening aura, and from the fact that he's completely calm, it's clear that he hasn't fought at full strength yet. Tiana worriedly said that this was enough for the test and asked Wasabi-kun and Bai to calm down. Wasabi-kun replied that they would know when to stop. Bai gritted his teeth and thought that he had humiliated him in front of Tiana. He agreed with a wicked grin and said that they would know when to stop. He thought that he would definitely trample on it. An ice bow and arrow appeared in his hands, and he shouted to Wasabi-kun that he wanted to use this move. Wasabi-kun gritted his teeth and wondered if he had lost his mind just to maintain his reputation. Bai soared into the air on top of the main character's head and shouted for him to die. He shot an ice arrow with a sinister face and shouted that it was his strongest shot. It used an absolute zero arrow array. A stream of ice arrows shot down over Ling-Si. The arrows stabbed into the ground around him, forming an icy circle around the protagonist. The dialogue box says, Absolute Zero Arrow Array, an AoE attack exclusive to archers that can damage both enemies and allies. The arrow array will be formed after 1.5 seconds, dealing the damage of ice arrows to every player inside it. Damage, deals 60 magic damage per second for up to 5 seconds. Cost, 120 mana. Range, 9 meters. Cooldown, 180 seconds. Tiana was surprised to think that this was an absolute zero arrow array, and once the array was formed, Ling-Si would be in danger. Bai shouted at Wasabi-kun to stop the protagonist from getting out of there. He shouted that there was only 1 second left and told him to put him down now, not giving him a chance. Wasabi-kun stood in a fighting stance, looking at Ling-Si, and thought that he wanted to see what he would do when facing 2 opponents whose level was higher than his. He used a lethargy backstab and, once behind the main character, hit him with a dagger. Frowning, Wasabi-kun apologized. Tiana exclaimed in fright and thought that Wasabi-kun, as one of the main people, is considered the best thief in the 3rd division, and his movements and skills are better than the movements and skills of the thieves in the 2nd division. With a worried frown, she thought that, after all, Ling-Si was too presumptuous. Bai grinned, complimented Wasabi-kun on her work, and shouted for him to leave the area of effect of the skill as soon as possible. Wasabi-kun said something was wrong. He thought that he felt as if he had stabbed cotton wool. Opening his eyes wide in surprise, he said that something was wrong. Ling-Si turned around, revealing a skeleton with a dark purple aura coming from its mouth and eye sockets. Wasabi-kun was put in fear and shouted that he had been tricked. The dialogue box reported that the fear state was applied to him and he would lose control of his body for 2 seconds. Wasabi-kun froze in place, trembling with fright. Tiana shouted that a ray will be formed soon. Bai cursed. Wasabi-kun, wrapped in ice, thought it was too late. The ice was covering his body and he couldn't move. He screamed in pain, and the ice magic dealt him 60 points of damage each. They shouted that Wasabi-kun was trapped inside a ray. Bai cursed and asked where the thief had gone. He tensed as he heard the protagonist's voice behind him saying that he was glad that he had learned this skill before coming here. Behind him, Ling-Si stood with a dagger in his hand and told him to make sure that before using a skill like Absolute Zero Arrow Array, he did not forget to fix the opponent in one place. Bai asked fearfully when he had made it. The main character asked if he had to explain it to him. He thought that when they were about to attack him, he used evil spirit's invisibility just in case, and they attacked the evil spirit that he created to replace himself. The dialogue box says, Evil spirit's invisibility creates the player's evil spirit and gives the real body invisibility. Opponents who get close to the evil spirit will fall under the fear state for 2 seconds. The real body will be invisible for 3 seconds. Special effect, the next attack after invisibility deals 300% critical damage, including skill damage. Cost, 96 mana. Cooldown, 300 seconds. Tiana was surprised to think that this skill was very cool. She ran up to them and asked the main character to let go of Bai for now. She told Bai that, after he showed his skills, he had to pass the test. Wasabi-kun shouted that the trial wasn't over yet. The dialogue box indicates that the Absolute Zero Arrow Array skill action is over. He was standing in a cloud of dust. When Bai noticed Wasabi-kun, he saw the item he had obtained from the dungeon. Wasabi-kun, who was wrapped in a red aura, said with a frown that he was going to use this item in the arena to raise his ranking, but he would think it was more worth the challenge. Frowning, he said, 15 seconds. The dialog box says, Power Breakthrough Device, a single-use item dropped from a dungeon. Level requirement, none. Effect, increases all stats by 90%, item not stackable. Cooldown for using the item again, 3 days in real life. Pointing at Ling Si with his dagger, he told him to show him his real strength. The main character said with a grin that he seemed to be interested in him. Bai Lai glanced at him with a frown. Ling Si took the dagger hilt forward and stabbed Bai Lai in the neck. Tiana called out to Bai Lai, who had fallen to the ground. The main character told her not to worry because he just knocked him out with a critical hit from the skill. He told her to take it to the side. He thought about how he missed giving his all just to show them who was better. He thought that it was the same in his previous life. The main character frowned and thought that he was falling and rising endlessly, gradually getting stronger. The main character now has a golden insignia. Tiana was standing next to Bai Lai, who was sitting on the ground, wrapped in green roots from her spell. She opened her mouth in surprise. Noticing that the Ling Si strength value on the screen was starting to skyrocket, she asked what was wrong with the measuring device and the score. She wondered what was going on. The main character, standing in front of Wasabi-kun, agreed to 15 seconds with a grin. The main character thought about his past life, about his past self, which was difficult, but he still kept in a place full of strong people, putting all his faith and honor into battles, fighting for glory. He thought that he was fighting, putting everything on the line to prove who was the strongest of all, and this feeling allowed him to move forward. The main character and Wasabi-kun are standing opposite each other. Ling Si thought that today, at this moment, the opponent opposite him reminded him of this feeling. Standing upright in the dissipating cloud of dust, he thought that those indescribable hot emotions inside him had been reawakened once again, and it seemed like they were awakening something else. Tiana stared at the rising numbers in surprise. Wasabi-kun said with a frown that his eyes made him even more convinced that using the power breakthrough device was the right choice. He told him not to dare hold back and let him feel his full strength. Ling Si, frowning, held out his dagger and said that he would do so because he hadn't been so excited in a long time. Wasabi-kun rushed forward, saying, 15 seconds. They ran towards each other, and Wasabi-kun shouted for them to end this. They slammed their daggers together, gritting their teeth. Wasabi-kun swung his weapon. The main character jumped back and held out his dagger. Wasabi-kun thought that this thief Ling Si was very fast. Ling Si glanced at him with a serious face. Wasabi-kun was about to use a backstab, but he was interrupted by the protagonist's hand coming towards his face. He was surprised to find that he was faster than he thought. The main character hit Wasabi-kun in the torso. The dialogue box reported that the backstab skill was interrupted. Jumping back, Wasabi-kun wondered if he was crazy for attacking him like this. Ling Si frowned seriously. Wasabi-kun grinned and thought that at such a close distance, he definitely wouldn't be able to react in time. He used a backstab. Zio-lan said that she missed the time when Ling Si took them along to level up. She and her group were sitting at a table with food, and she said with a smile that it was only thanks to Ling Si that they were able to sell all these materials and get a lot of money. She said that if it hadn't happened, they wouldn't have been able to have such a banquet full of food with bonuses and buffs. Longface asked irritably if they hadn't leveled up fast enough even without his help. Zio-lan said that they were able to level up quickly on their own thanks to the items they obtained in that dungeon. Anti-Mainstream asked Jae-run what he was looking at all this time. He replied that these were notes he made while they were traveling together with Ling Si, and they were just things he learned from him. Zio-lan asked if they could make him as strong as him. He laughed awkwardly and said he hoped so. Jae-run asked if they remembered the main character's movements when they defeated the mud dragon in the mad level dungeon. He said that he wasn't sure at the time, but now that he compares it with a lot of information that he was able to find, he is sure. He said his game mechanics, controls, and moves are top-time state. Zio-lan exclaimed that the name sounded like it was full of philosophy. Longface asked her what she was thinking. He said he had also heard rumors about top time. He said that this word means the moment when a person reaches a state of complete immersion with their game character, and once they reach this state, they can use incredibly fast micro-mechanics and reaction speed. Jae-run said that the term appeared in old online games and is still used today. He said that this is a feeling that all professionals want to achieve, and it is not an exaggeration to say that it can only be discovered, not found. Longface said it was just a rumor. Frowning, he said that if Ling Si was truly a person capable of mastering top time, then he would be able to achieve incredible feats. The main character hit Wasabi-kun with a dagger, interrupting his skill. The dialogue box announced that the backstab skill was aborted. Gritting his teeth, Wasabi-kun thought that this was not possible. He wondered how he was able to react so quickly. After all, he had even upgraded his stats with the power breakthrough device. Frowning, he thought he couldn't believe it. He used clone execution, and there were 3 Wasabi-kun in front of the main character. Wasabi-kun was surprised to see Ling Xi's fist approaching in front of him. The main character hit him in the face, interrupting the use of the skill. Wasabi-kun thought it was impossible. He wondered why his reaction speed was so fast. Wasabi-kun used quick attack, but it interrupted his skill. He thought that in front of him, all his movements were useless. He used vital stab, but that skill was also interrupted. Wasabi-kun pushed the main character's dagger into his body and said that he wouldn't let him pull it out. He said he couldn't do anything without his weapon. Frowning, he shouted that he would make him pay with his blood, but he didn't finish. With a wave of his hand, the protagonist grabbed Wasabi-kun's hand. Frowning, he jumped behind him and placed his foot on his back. He was standing behind him, twisting his arm back and forth. Ling Xi said it was over. Wasabi-kun's dagger was in front of him, stuck in the ground. The dialogue box reported that he was disarmed. Wasabi-kun opened his mouth in surprise. The dialogue box described the disarmed state. When your weapon is taken away or broken in battle, any attacks and skills will lose weapon damage bonuses. Tiana's eyes widened and her mouth dropped open. Wasabi-kun said that he lost, and the main character won. He said with a smirk that he was strong, and the main character let go of his hand. Wasabi-kun said that Tiana was right about him, and he passed the test. Ling Xi said that now that he had finished the test, he was leaving. Tiana had told him not to forget about the monthly guild wars, and he had to come to the meeting. The main character replied that he would return the day after tomorrow. Tiana thought that she had finally managed to get it. Wasabi-kun asked her where Bai Lai was. She said that he seemed very shaken up by what had happened and left without saying a word. Wasabi-kun closed his eyes and told him to let him rest for a while. He said he had lost his mind. He asked what the final ranking of Ling Xi was. Tiana said, 86. After being silent for a while, Wasabi-kun laughed and said that Bai Lai's final score was 92 points, he had 90 points, and Ling Xi had 86 points. He laughed and said it was very interesting. He praised Tiana for her good work and said that it was time for her to return as well. Tiana thought that she still didn't know if the device was broken or if she had accepted a monster into the guild. Wasabi-kun said that they still needed to discuss the monthly guild war. Tiana agreed and followed him. Final score of Ling Xi, 993. The sun was shining brightly over the desert. Boundless Desert, Level 7 map. The main character stands surrounded by wolves, one of which is red in color. He waved his hand. The red wolf growled loudly. The gray wolves leaped and charged at Ling Xi. The main character swung a dagger and, using throat slasher, cut the throat of the wolves. Standing in front of the red wolf, he said that now it was just him. Using Shadow Flash Blink, he appeared in front of the red wolf, swinging his dagger. He hit him on the back of the head from behind. Red Wolf lost consciousness. Frowning, Ling Xi used Flow and Bone Breaker. A stream of purple and yellow energy surrounded the wolf, dealing damage to it. The protagonist exhaled, and the dagger in his hand disappeared. He thought that he had spent a lot of time trying out new skills and only leveled up once, killing monsters for 2 days. Looking at the dialogue box, he thought that the efficiency of completing such tasks is not enough, and he still needs a group. The dialogue box reported that he had completed the wolf slaughter task. Frowning, he thought that the higher the level, the harder it would be for him to level up, and the current efficiency was no good. He thought that there was a limit to what he could do alone. The dialogue box reported a call from a friend. Ling Xi answered the call. Tiana furiously asked where he was and why he hadn't responded to her message. She shouted that the monthly guild war was about to start, and he needed to quickly come to them to prepare for it. Closing one eye, the main character said that he was completing a task and therefore did not see her message. She told him to come quickly, because only he didn't come. Ling Xi said that he understood and would come soon. Several people are standing near the large stone doors. A guy with long blonde hair raised his hand and shouted that he was here. The main character goes to meet them together with Tiana. Dira said she was happy to meet him again and welcomed him to Nebulous. The main character replied, likewise. Tiana said it was Dira, and they seemed to have seen each other before. The main character asked the guy with long blonde hair if he was saving his staff. He shouted that he could even equip it. Tiana said that Dira and her group are people she trusts a lot, and they are also members of their group in this guild war. She said that there was a limit on how many people could join the guild war, but they were free to form groups of anyone they wanted against other guilds. Dira told her not to worry, and this time she wouldn't let anyone hurt her. Tiana said with a smile that they would do their best together. The main character thought with a grin that Tiana could seduce both men and women. He said it was his first time participating in a guild war. He asked if there was anything he needed to know about. Tiana turned around, exclaiming that she had completely forgotten, and said that she would explain the rules of the monthly guild wars. She said that the monthly guild war is a monthly competition where guilds compete against each other. Each guild will send a certain number of participants, and their glory score will depend on how many people they kill. That is, between the time the door opens and closes, the more kills a guild makes, the higher its rank will be. The guild with the highest score will be able to increase its ranking, so the monthly guild war is an important way for guilds to show their strength. He asked if it would be an easy victory for guilds that are already strong, such as the 5 major guilds. Tiana replied that they can't do anything about it, because the 5 major guilds have already shown their strength, but there is still one way, and the players call it the way of survival. Usually, other guilds don't take the initiative to provoke the 5 main guilds, and they fight against guilds of the same level or weaker. This is how they maintain and raise the ranking of their guilds. Tiana added that the 5 major guilds wouldn't be so cowardly as to attack people weaker than them. Frowning, the protagonist replied that this is how the weak live. He said he understood, and there was something he needed to talk to Tiana about in private. The main character called her to follow him. Dira asked in surprise what secrets they might have and why they couldn't talk about it here. The dark-haired guy said with a grin to Dira that it looked like she had a strong opponent. Tiana asked him in surprise that he wanted to start a band later. Lingxi replied that the group would still belong to Nebulous, but would not be part of any division, and it would be the main one in that group. Tiana looked at him in surprise. The main character said that he would choose the participants independently, and they could pass the test after they joined the guild. He asked her what she thought. Tiana wondered if that meant she would be playing the role of manager. She said it had never happened before. She thought that he wanted to create a strong group, and if she was in charge of it, then perhaps this group could bring her unexpected results. Tiana asked if he had any contestants in mind. The main character replied that he came up with this idea only today. He said thoughtfully that even though there were a lot of talented people in this game, getting them to join wouldn't be easy. Tiana replied that since he had joined their guild, she would do everything in her power to help him, because that was the promise they made. She said with a smile that as a vice captain of the 3rd Division, she would help him with this idea. Frowning, she said that he should promise her that he wouldn't betray her. Lingxi laughed and told her not to worry because he wasn't that kind of person. He noticed the noise. A guy with blonde hair and a shield on his back shouted that he would not be a burden to them and asked to be accepted into his group. He shouted that he would try harder and he would definitely take the most damage. The guy in the helmet exhaled, said that they should beg him, and asked to let them go. The short-haired guy frowned and said that the other groups had already rejected him and he shouldn't join the guild war. He said that with his skills, he would be abused by other players. Ruko pleaded and shouted that he had tried very hard for the chance to join the guild war this month. He asked them to let him join them. He shouted that if he couldn't join the team, he would lose his qualifications to join the monthly guild war. The main character asked if Nebulous accepts small children. Tiana said that he is a child who dreams of becoming a great tank warrior. She said that he had participated in the guild challenge many times, and later, after seeing that he has a lot of perseverance, she allowed him to join the guild to help him gain experience. She said his name was Ruko Zong. The main character opened his mouth in surprise. Grabbing Tiana by the shoulders, he asked her his name. Tiana replied that his name was Ruko Zong. She wondered why he was so excited. Lingxi, frowning in surprise, thought that he remembered this name, and he was one of the 6 divine shields in his previous life, nicknamed Sacred Mountain Ruko. He wondered in surprise if this little beastman was really him. The guy in the helmet told Ruko that it wasn't that he didn't want to help him, but that his presence would drag down the entire team. He said that all the groups he participated in the past guild events were ranked last. The short-haired guy said with a frown that the guild war was about to start. He said to ignore it because they don't have time. He said that in reality, not everything can be done with hard work. Ruko was crying through gritted teeth. The guy told him that he needed to understand the difference in skill between him and the others and asked him not to drag them down again. Hearing the main character's voice, Ruko opened his eyes in surprise. The main character said that he doesn't have an opinion on what they just said, but he thinks that this hard work will make things much more interesting. He asked Ruko with a smile if he agreed. A guy with short hair exclaimed that it was a newbie. He asked since when he was allowed to pry into their affairs. Holding out his hand, Lingxi asked Ruko if he wanted to join his group. He was standing in front of it, kneeling on one knee. Ruko looked at him in surprise. This invitation was the beginning of a highly respected legendary band in Heavenland, Shadow. The doors opened, and a voice shouted that a horn had sounded. The voice announced that the guild war was about to begin. Dira with her group, Lingxi, Ruko, Tiana, and the other guild members walked forward with a serious frown. 2 masked men were standing next to the gong. On the head of one of them was a red flame, the other a purple one. Limitless Sacred Ruins, a huge battlefield where guild wars take place, a space that reeks of blood. A place where each guild can challenge each other without rules, kills, glory score, or guild reputation. Only rank matters here. As soon as all the doors open, the members of each guild will come, waiting for the battle drum signal. The people rang the gong, and the guild war began. Several people jumped down from the cliff. The main character and people from his guild are running on the ground. Ruko said that this time the limitless sacred ruins landscape is a canyon. Dira shouted to everyone that they should avoid fighting. They obeyed. Ruko said that the members of the other guilds were already spread out on the map. Lingxi said that it seems most people's strategy is to find a safe zone first. He told them that they would also look for a safe area first. Tiana thought that she hoped she was right to let Lingxi be the leader of their group. Frowning, she thought that even though she wanted him to protect her, she also wanted to see his abilities. At the foot of the cliff, Wasabi-kun struck the guy with a swing of his dagger. He said he got the last one sorted out. The guy with the short hair said that, as he expected, everything went smoothly because he is with Wasabi-kun and Bailai. The boy with the elf ears laughed and agreed, saying that the three of them were lucky to have met them. Bailai agreed with a grim face. Wasabi-kun thought that he was still in that state, and if he was still concerned about that battle with Lingxi, then his skills might stop improving. Frowning, he thought that he was looking forward to fighting Lingxi once more, and he would be able to improve himself a little more. The guy asked Bailai why he was so insistent on coming to this place. He said he thought he was organizing a place for them and other groups to get together. Wasabi-kun glanced at Bailai and thought that he didn't know he had a plan. He wondered why he insisted on coming to this place. Bailai grinned darkly, and Wasabi-kun thought that something was wrong. A purple light shrouded them, and Wasabi-kun realized that it was magic. The guy shouted that he couldn't move. He asked if it was ambush. Wasabi-kun heard laughter from above. The man on the cliff with the scythe in his hand said that they really were ambushed. He said that they were trapped by his bind skill. A beastman from the Wolf's Fang Guild praised Bailai with a malicious grin and said that by sacrificing 3 companions, he had passed the test. Wasabi-kun asked Bailai what that meant. The beastman gave a command, and the red-haired girl rushed forward. Shouts rang out. He said that now he should provide them with this woman's location, and then he could join the Wolf's Fang Guild. Bailai agreed. Wasabi-kun shouted out if he was going to betray the guild and them. The red-haired girl chuckled and said that it was better for him to keep quiet because it was his turn to die. She grinned and swung her dagger at Wasabi-kun. Bailai frowned and shouted for them to wait. He said that this person is a friend of his and he wants him to join Wolf's Fang as well. The beastman said that he didn't tell them that he was going to bring another person, but agreed. He said they would spare his life. Bailai, with a dark frown, told Wasabi-kun not to blame him because he just can't let things continue like this. He said that in this guild war, he made Lingxi and Tiana pay for what they did. Wasabi-kun exclaimed that he had betrayed Nebulous and even told them Tiana's location in exchange for joining Wolf's Fang. He frowned and cursed, calling it trash. Bailai angrily shouted that if he couldn't get it, then no one would get it. He shouted that this cheating couple could die together. Turning to Wasabi-kun, he said that he should understand him. He suggests that he join Wolf's Fang together. The beastman laughed and said it was an interesting farce. The dialogue box reported an incoming voice call. A dialogue box appeared in front of the beastman, and he asked if they were able to find them from the location he sent them. The voice said they'd found them. The red-haired girl smiled viciously and told them to start torturing them as soon as possible. She said that they would catch up with her as soon as she was reborn, and told her not to feel sorry for them. The beastman put her hand on Bailai's shoulder and told him not to worry, because he had sent 5 agility-type thieves from the 3rd Division of Wolf's Fang, and they should definitely be enough to deal with this woman. He said that because he told them their location, they were able to find Tiana. Bailai remained silent. A voice shouted that they should let him finish. The beastman asked what he wanted to say with a smirk. The voice said the situation was bad. The beastman tensed. The voice said it didn't warn them about Tiana having a security guard. The beastman asked what he was talking about. The guy replied that he was hiding while talking to him through a voice call. He said it was a thief with white hair, and he was terrifying. The beastman furiously asked why he needed to hide to call them, and what was going on there. The guy turned around in fright and said it was too loud. He said that in just 3 minutes, 4 of their group were killed by this thief, and only he was left. The beastman opened his mouth in surprise. Wasabi-kun thought it was Lingxi. The red-haired girl said with a nervous grin that one thief couldn't kill 4. Wasabi-kun frowned, thinking that he was leaving Tiana's safety to him. The guy chuckled nervously as he told the beastman that his teammates hadn't revived yet. He asked if he could back out for now. A voice behind him said he was here. The boy's eyes widened in alarm. He turned around, and the voice asked if he could talk to his vice captain. In front of him stood the main character with a sinister smile. 10 minutes ago, Dira asked why they were running so far and if he had a specific place he wanted to go. The blonde-haired guy agreed, panting, and added that they looked like they were scared. Ruko turned around and said with a smile that if anyone had to, he would be at the front to take all the damage so that they could attack from behind. The blonde-haired guy told him to stop bluffing, and with such weak equipment, he should just hide behind when the moment comes. Ruko said with a smile that he didn't want to. The blonde-haired guy said he didn't understand why he asked Ruko to join their group. Tiana asked Ling Si if he had a plan. He replied that he didn't have a plan and just wanted to shake off some bugs. Tiana asked in surprise if someone was following them. Stopping, the main character grabbed Ruko's face. The guy in the knitted hat asked why they had suddenly stopped. Frowning, Ling Si said that these guys were like sticky gum, and he couldn't get rid of them no matter how hard he tried. Tiana shouted for everyone to prepare for battle. Ruko asked in surprise where the enemies were. The 3rd Division of Wolf's Fang, a group of 5 assassins. Several heads emerged from the water. One of them said he didn't expect them to notice their presence. Another said that someone in their group should have a high perception. The guy said that they are underwater with instant conceal activated, so most likely they haven't discovered their location yet. Another guy said that with the tracker that Vice Captain gave them, they wouldn't lose them for sure, and as long as they didn't know where they were, they wouldn't be able to do anything to them. The dialogue box described instant conceal, the ability to hide yourself in an environment, a common hidden skill. The guy asked if there really were any enemies here because he couldn't see anyone. Tiana assumed that they were using a concealing skill. Ruko asked what they should do. The main character used the Great Eagle Eye. The dialogue box described Great Eagle Eye, eyes as sharp as an eagle's, detects all hidden units within a certain radius, increases awareness for 5 seconds and gives you an increased chance to see through the enemy's skill. He said he found them and they're in the water. The guy in the water said they were found. Another said that this thief has a visual skill that allows him to see through hiding skills. Frowning, the guy said that their overall levels weren't too high and they would deal with the low levels first. He gave the command and they jumped out of the water. A dagger appeared in the protagonist's hand and he told the others to stay put and be on guard in case there was another ambush. Tiana shouted at him to be careful. The guy laughed and said that a level 7 thief was going to fight them alone. He told one of them to go with him. He shouted to the rest of his team to cut the mage's throat, avoiding the warriors. Dira shouted that it was a group of assassins from the 3rd Division of Wolf's Fang. She said they were assassins who specialized in high DPS attacks. Ruko placed a shield on the ground and told them not to be afraid. He said that in that case, they would have to pass him first. 2 assassins running towards the main character used a backstab and feint attack. After stabbing with their daggers, they found that they had cut open the fake Ling Si. One of them asked where he was. The fake protagonist's face turned into a skull, casting fear on the assassins. They stopped in their tracks, screaming. One of the assassins asked what was going on with their boss. The bald guy called out to the boss and the main character appeared behind him. He said that he should not be distracted from the battle. He punched him in the back, kicking the other 2. Ling Si used flow. Moving quickly between the 3 assassins, he stabbed them with his dagger. They fell to the ground, and Ruko exclaimed in delight. The main character said that the health of each of them is lowered to 1/3, and he will need their help to clean them up. They agreed with sinister smiles. Dira asked the assassin about being a DPS killer. A scream broke out. The dialogue box announced that the fear effect has ended. The guy noticed that it was over. Another guy shouted at him not to just stand there and they need to work together to get rid of this thief. Ling Si appeared in front of them, shrouded in a dark purple aura. They exclaimed that he was here. The assassin shouted in fright that his attacks were too strong and fast for him to react to. The main character used Shadow Flash Blink, hitting the assassin in the back of the head and applying a feint effect on him. The assassin said as he fell that he wasn't human. The main character grinned and said that the next combo would be Bone Breaker. He dealt the assassin multiple hits, dealing 120 critical damage. The other assassin, looking at his fallen comrade, thought that they weren't even on the same level. Looking at Ling Si's back, he fearfully thought that he could only run away. He told his vice captain that his teammates hadn't revived yet. He asked if he could back out. The main character, standing behind him, asked to be allowed to talk to his vice captain. The assassin agreed. He asked if it was Vice Captain Wolfsfang of the 3rd Division. He told him to listen carefully. The beastman's face tightened, and the veins on it bulged. The assassin screamed for help. The main character told him to wash his neck and wait for them to arrive, because they would be coming soon and he would be next. The beastman gritted his teeth and bulged his eyes in anger. Clenching his fist, he addressed Bai Lai. He furiously asked who it was. Standing at the foot of the cliff, he asked if he was saying that it was a thief who had passed the insane difficulty of the dark forest last time. Bai Lai said that's right. Cursing, the beastman slammed his scythe into the ground. He laughed with a mad smile and said that as long as they were enemies, fate would bring them together. He said that he didn't think Nebulous would actually accept him into their guild. Bai Lai said with a grim face that it was Tiana's idea and had nothing to do with him. The beastman laughed and said that he was tired of living since he dared to threaten him. The girl asked what they would do with Wasabi-kun. The beastman told Bai Lai that his friend didn't seem to share his opinion. Wasabi-kun raised his hand and said that there was no need for them to worry about him. Swinging his hand, he grabbed Bai Lai by the collar and said that as his longtime partner, he was very ashamed. Frowning, he said that the other people in the team would most likely spread rumors about his betrayal after they respond. The veins on his face bulged, and Wasabi-kun said that he was leaving this month's guild war, and from now on, Bailai's problems would have nothing to do with him. Calling him a traitor, he said that they would be enemies the next time they met. The dialogue box says, "You are currently not in a battle state. Are you sure you want to leave the monthly guild war?" Warning, leaving the guild war for no reason will be penalized with reduced player experience. Bailai gritted his teeth. Wasabi-kun told him when he left that he was on his own now. The beastman said with a smirk that he didn't know what was good for him, so he gave him a chance to join Wolf's Fang, and he threw it away just like that. Saying it was stupid and they should stop wasting their time here, he encouraged them to move to other areas. Bailai noticed a dialogue box that appeared in front of him. It reported that Tiana had removed him from her friends list. Noticing this, he said that it looked like everything that had happened here had already surfaced. Chuckling, the beastman told him that he would be Nebulous's enemy from now on. The red-haired girl said with a smirk that betraying the guild meant that they would pursue him. She said he was lucky to have joined them. Frowning, Bailai thought that he would take revenge. The red-haired girl said that they didn't need Tiana's coordinates anymore because they said they would come to them on their own. The beastman laughed and said that he would wait. The main character told the assassin to tell him the coordinates of his vice-captain. The guy fearfully refused and told him not to even think about getting the vice-captain's location from him. He said that as a member of Wolf's Fang, he would die and become a ghost of Wolf's Fang, but he would never betray his guild. Ling Si said with a smirk that he was a kind guy. With a sinister smile, he said that he must have killed a few people on the way here because he had a red name, and he would probably drop a couple of items if he killed him right now, and he would definitely lose some of the experience he had worked so hard for. The boy looked at him in horror. The main character said that he really felt sorry for him and wanted to let him go. The guy dropped to his knees and said 86.93.325. He said the vice-captain's coordinates are in the west and they're heading east right now. He promised that these coordinates were correct. The main character thanked him. He said that he would now generously send him out of the guild war. The boy tensed in surprise. He asked if he had said he would let him go. Ling Si asked with a smirk if he didn't know that cheating was a normal occurrence in war. He added that he said he only wanted to do so. The guy swore and screamed. Tiana stands on the edge of the cliff. Frowning, she thought that she didn't expect Bailai to betray them, and it was all because of that fight. Looking to the side, Tiana thought about what the situation was with Wasabi-kun, and after Bailai's betrayal, the 3rd Nebulous Division should be reorganized. She thought she should take this opportunity. Dira called out to her and asked if she had seen the guild's message. Tiana replied that she had already received the message about Bailai's betrayal. Dira furiously asked why this had happened. She said she didn't expect him to stab them in the back. Tiana, coming up to them, suggested that we talk about it later. She asked how Ling Si was doing. Ruko pointed to the side and said that he was here. They were shocked to see the main character in front of them, who stepped on the face of a guy with foam coming out of his mouth. He said they were just in time, and he had just recently obtained the coordinates of their vice-captain by politely asking this guy. Ruko laughed nervously at the words about being polite. Tiana, drawing a branch on the ground, said that according to the coordinates the main character received, if they really go east, it means that they will meet up with other Wolf's Fang groups. She said that as far as she knows, most of the Wolf's Fang groups are in the east, and only a small part of them are in the west, which will make it easier for them to increase their glory score at the last moment by attacking from all directions. Ruko enthusiastically said that Tiana even knows about the other guild's plans. Dira had told him that it was no secret that the members of large groups were distributed over the map area during a guild war. She said he could guess roughly where they were if he used his brain. She said that the only thing that matters during a guild war is killing, and in order to get a high glory score, you need to kill, thus increasing it. Dira said it was a simple strategy to raise their score at the last moment. Ruko scratched his head, puzzled. Laughing awkwardly, he shouted that he knew about it and just wanted to raise the morale of their group. The main character asked Tiana if she had any plan. Closing one eye, she said that if they could make it through the battle in the central area, they would be able to cut them off halfway. The main character asked about the central zone. She replied that the central zone is a place that is connected to the teleports of all 4 sides. The guilds there are very chaotic, and fights happen often, which makes it easier to interfere with their plan. She added that even if reinforcements arrive, they won't be able to help them right away. Ling Si thought about the fact that the guilds there are chaotic, and fights often occur. He asked about the fact that they can hide information about their guilds during the guild war. Tiana replied that it was true, but no one does that, and if you do that, then all the kills you get will not be counted in the result. The main character replied that this is not a problem. He said with a grin that he had an interesting plan. The dialog box described the hidden mask. Unlike hiding player information through system settings, a hidden mask is a mask that every player has. It will hide the user's appearance. You can't use it under specific circumstances. Ling Si said that it's all settled then. He called me to go. Someone asked where. The main character, applying a mask to his face, said, to the central zone. The Central Guild War Zone. This is the central area of the battlefield where dust rages all over the area. Lots of people are fighting each other all over the central zone. Like raging dust, this is where the most intense battles take place. A man in armor with a beard shouted that this was their mortal enemy. He ordered an attack. A guy with elf ears called out to him that he was a chatterbox. He asked if he had forgotten that half of them had been killed by them in the last guild war. He urged his guild members to beat them up like last time. They ran towards each other. Feet appeared on the rock. The guy shouted to his captain that someone was there. Shielding himself from the flames with his shield, he asked if the enemies had launched a sneak attack at them from behind. The guy stiffly said that he didn't look like one of them because he was wearing a mask. In front of him stood Ling Si with a dagger in his hand, wearing a mask. The captain assumed it was a clown. The main character looked at them with a serious face under the mask of a clown. He stabbed the captain in the back with a dagger, and the captain shouted for a sneak attack. Ling Si pushed the captain away. The boy with the elf ears asked in surprise what was going on. The main character kicked him in the chest. Cursing, the armored man asked which guild was interfering in their fight. The main character replied that he was a member of the Wolf's Fang Guild. The guy with the elf ears fell to the ground and asked why a guild from the 5 main guilds interfered in the battles of other guilds. He asked if they thought the guild war was their home. The guy with the bow shouted at him to be a man and take off his mask to show them his identity. Ling Si asked if they thought they were in a position to ask for information about Wolf's Fang. Turning around, he said that he was giving them 30 seconds to run away because Wolf's Fang would come here to kill everyone. Disappeared in a cloud of red dust, he told them not to blame him for not warning them. The guy exclaimed that he was gone. The armored man gritted his teeth and asked if they thought they could do whatever they wanted while wearing this mask. He said they had gone too far. Another guy in the crowd asked why he was wearing a mask and told them about their plan. The guy with the elf ears shouted that there was nothing strange about it, because Wolf's Fang's reputation had always been bad. The armored man asked the people if they had seen the masked thief from Wolf's Fang. Other people said they'd seen it, too. The bald guy said angrily that he suddenly appeared and slapped him. A guy with a white patch on his forehead shouted in frustration that he ran away after giving him 1,000 years of death. The beastman said furiously, not only did he sneak attack him, he also called him a coward. The elf-eared girl said sheepishly that she thought he had touched her from behind. Another person shouted about what a disgraceful person he was. They shouted with one voice that they would make Wolf's Fang pay for what they had done. Dira said that they had teamed up against Wolf's Fang in such a short time. Ruko admiringly said that Ling Si is very cool and was able to fool so many people alone. The blonde-haired guy irritably shouted at him to lie back down because they would be noticed. Tiana thought with a slight smile that she didn't expect Ling Si to use such tricks, but only he is able to escape safely after provoking so many people. 20 minutes ago, the main character said that the central area would be full of players, and since they were here, he would put on a show for them. He said that when the people from Wolf's Fang came there, they would give them a big surprise, and they just needed to relax and watch the spectacle. Tiana frowned as she thought about the surprise he would give them in the central area. The armored guy exclaimed when he noticed Wolf's Fang. The beastman said that, as expected, there are a lot of players in the central area. The guy in the wizard's hat shouted angrily that they really had come, and it looked like they were being seriously underestimated. The beastman grinned nervously and asked why there were so many people happy to see them. The girl with red hair told him that there was something wrong with them. A guy with short brown hair raised his fist and asked if they were going to kill everyone. The beastman grabbed his weapon, shouted to wait, and said that he was the vice captain of the 3rd Division of Wolf's Fang. A man in the crowd shouted that they already knew that. Vice Captain used multiple flame bursts to hit the guy with the sword from the crowd. He asked why they suddenly attacked them. He was surprised to see something behind the angry crowd. Behind the people, there was a masked Ling Si, and the Vice Captain realized that something was coming. He tensely thought that he had a bad feeling, similar to the fear of being targeted by an unknown monster in the dark. When he heard the scream, he turned around. Ling Si used critical backstab, cutting the guy's throat with a dagger. He said it was the first one. The vice captain exclaimed that it was a sneak attack. He ordered everyone to be on their guard. The guy fell to the ground, and the girl with red hair asked who did it. She said she hadn't noticed at all. Turning to the vice captain, she asked if it was Ling Si. She shouted that he was attacking their teammates with low health. The vice captain replied that he hadn't seen his face, only a clown mask. He shouted at everyone not to panic and use gravitational pressure. The dialogue box described gravitational pressure, using the player as a core, creates a gravity field with a radius of 3 meters, and enemies trapped inside it will be subjected to triple the force of gravity, reducing their movement speed and skill usage by half. He shouted for everyone to come inside. Gritting his teeth, he said that this thief wouldn't be able to do anything to them inside this circle. The red-haired girl said that he wouldn't dare go inside, and they would make him pay what he deserved for going against them. The vice captain started talking about what would happen when he went inside, but stopped. He noticed a hand behind the red-haired girl who asked what was wrong. Grabbing her face, the main character said that she was the second one. The vice captain looked ahead, startled. The girl screamed for help. The vice captain thought that they wouldn't be able to spot him anyway due to his speed. The girl held out her hand and called out to the vice captain. He thought about how he was still so fast even though his speed had been reduced by half. The girl screamed for help again. People walk on the ground strewn with bodies. Someone shouted to hurry up. The girl in the wizard's hat pointed ahead and said that it looked like a fight had broken out with the people from Wolf's Fang. Another man shouted that they would help them too. The guy with the sword and shield shouted that he would take revenge for the slap. Tiana and her team run in the opposite direction. Tiana told them to avoid the crowds and that this was the border of the central zone, and therefore there would be fewer people here. She said the coordinates should be here somewhere. Dira asked about the fact that Ling Si said he wanted to surprise her. Tiana agreed and said it should be here somewhere. Ruko said he was looking forward to it. He said there was no one here, not even the main character. He asked if it could be the wrong place. Tiana said that this should be the right place for them, and decided to write to the main character. Ruko exclaimed in surprise that there was a huge sandstorm in front of them, and someone was coming. Dira shouted for everyone to prepare for battle. Ruko called out to wait. The main character was standing in front of them with a girl from Wolf's Fang on his shoulder. Her mouth was taped shut and she was trying to shout something. Ruko exclaimed that it was Ling Si. Tiana exclaimed that this was the surprise he was talking about. The main character removed the tape from the girl's mouth. She swore and demanded to let her go. Putting it on the ground, the main character said that it was for Tiana, and that, as far as he remembers, this girl provoked her. The girl was shouting angrily at Tiana for daring to use such a dirty method. She demanded to let her go, otherwise it would end badly for them. She shouted at them to wait until their group in the east arrived, and then they would make her pay for what they had done. Dira said that she didn't even know that a person could be kidnapped. The guy with the blonde hair said she was noisy and he should tape her mouth back up. Tiana asked to untie the girl. The girl asked with a smirk if she was scared. She said that if she let her go, she would promise that in this guild war, Wolf's Fang wouldn't kill her like last time. Tiana shouted at her that she was wrong. The girl's mouth dropped open in surprise. Surrounded by yellow magic and roots, she said that she wasn't afraid, but was just thinking about what skill to use to deal with a stupid woman like her. She stared at it, frowning. The girl swore as she swung the dagger and shouted at her to be quiet. The roots rushed to meet her. Tiana used a vine lock, and the roots wrapped around her. Tiana held up the book and said that since she still wanted to fight, she wouldn't show pity to her opponent, much less her. She frowned. The girl shouted that she would remember this as the roots and vines dragged her underground. A girl's arm was sticking out of the ground, and she started to disappear. Tiana thanked the main character for the gift and said that now she owes him. Ruko exclaimed enthusiastically about how strong Ling Si and Tiana were. The main character said that before returning to the central zone, he needs to borrow someone. Tiana asked whose help he needed and if it would be dangerous for him to return to the central zone. The main character replied that he would not be in danger as long as he was helped by this person. Dira thought that she would finally be able to show her strength. The blonde-haired guy thought he was probably talking about her and his explosive fire magic. A guy with dark hair, showing off his biceps, said that he has experience in group fights. Ruko chuckled and asked who he was talking about. Ling Si told him that he needed his help. The group exclaimed in surprise, and Ruko opened his mouth in surprise. Turning around, he asked again. The main character answered in the affirmative, holding out his fist with a smile. Tears appeared in Ruko's eyes, and he slammed his fist down. He agreed and told me to rely on him. The beastman asked if anyone had seen the thief. With a flick of his scythe, he said it was the last one. He added that he was tired of them. The guy shouted to him that the girl's information says that she was killed. The vice captain exclaimed in surprise. Gritting his teeth and shaking with anger, he said to quickly gather all the groups and not give this thief a single chance. The guy asked that he wanted to gather all the groups for the sake of one thief. He said that the 3rd division would be a laughing stock. Remembering the red-haired girl, the vice captain replied angrily that he didn't care. He said to bring them here and surround the entire area. He said they would definitely find this thief. The vice captain thought that Ling Si would die a cruel death for daring to touch his woman. The guy retorted that they had just been attacked and didn't have much health left. He asked why they didn't retreat and join up with the other groups, then report back to them. The vice captain pointed at him with his index finger and shouted at him to do as he said. Bailai, who was hiding behind a corner, thought with a grin that it didn't seem like he was that good after all. He thought with a wicked smile that he couldn't wait to have his throat cut, and that would make things much easier for him. Ruko used a flying shield. The dialogue box describes flying shield, a skill available only to warriors. A solid shield attack that stops the opponent's movement for a second. After blocking the attack, the vice president furiously asked if it was those pesky insects again. Ruko caught his shield with a grin. The vice president cursed and asked if he wanted to die. Startled, he noticed that the guy behind him shouted. The main character hit him from the front with a dagger. He said it was the third one, piercing his chest. He told the vice president that he was next. The vice president said that he was too naive, and the other Wolf's Fang groups would arrive in a few minutes. He said that since he had come to him on his own, he wouldn't have to look for him. Holding a scythe wrapped in yellow energy, he said that he would burn it to ashes. He used Raging Flame Dance and said that it was his strongest fire spell, and now he wouldn't be able to escape anywhere. He shouted with a malicious smile that this was revenge for his woman. The main character asked if this is what a man in a relationship looks like. Lengxi, looking menacingly at him, said that he didn't think that he, as a mage, would be so stupid as to use spells in front of a thief who is much faster than him. He asked what he was thinking. Approaching his face, he said that he should join her. The main character used Bone Breaker, and a lot of punches hit the vice president. When he landed, he insulted them. Ruko exclaimed that they had won. The vice president fell on his face to the ground. The main character replied that they hadn't won yet, because Wolf's Fang would definitely send a large group to chase after him. He called him to follow him and said that he wanted to confirm something. Bailai told the vice president that he now knows the feeling of having his woman taken from under his nose. He said that they can't lose this guild war, and as a former captain of the Nebulous 3rd Division, he has a lot of experience in guild wars. He told him to trust him, and all he had to do was temporarily put him in charge of all the troops. The vice president, disappearing, agreed because he was capable, and told him to show him what he was capable of. He told him to contact other groups and tell them to kill this thief and his group. Bailai said with a crazy smile that he would do so. A dialogue box announced that he had been promoted to temporary vice captain of the Wolf's Fang 3rd Division. The main character and Ruko run between the rocks. Ruko, noticing another Wolf's Fang guild group, used a flying shield. The shield hit the guy and he fell. He shouted at the Wolf's Fang guild members to not even think about running away. The main character hit the guy in the back. The guy with the elf ears asked what they should do because the vice captain wasn't there. Ruko laughed and shouted that his and Lingxi's teamwork was perfect, and they were like sword and shield, yin and yang, heaven and earth. He asked if they had seen his shield bounce skill. He said it was an AoE skill that slows down the opponent's speed. He tried to remember the name of the main character's flow skill, said that the name doesn't matter, and all he's trying to say is that it's really nice to see all these people with low health die before they have time to react. Lengxi said that the skill is called Flow. Ruko agreed and shouted that this skill looks really cool. He asked if the warrior could learn it and if he could teach him the thing he made in the dust. He shouted that learning it would be cool, and he was using his shield, throwing the opponent into the dust. Ruko asked if he chose this mask himself or if he got a random one because his mask is a frog. He said it was ugly and he was wondering if he could change it. The main character closed his eyes and thought that he was very talkative and wouldn't have to worry about feeling lonely along the way. Turning around, he thought that he had brought it with him to confirm something. Before the guild war started, Ruko asked if he would really let him join their group. He exclaimed that he was very glad. He said he didn't even know him and asked why he had allowed him to join his group. He asked what his evil intentions were. After correcting himself, he asked if there was anything he needed to do to join the group. Ruko shouted that all the groups he had joined before were not suitable for him, as if their tempo didn't match his. He shouted that when a man fights, he has a rhythm. The main character told him to relax and listen to it. Ruko, noticing that he called him by his full name, said that he could call him Little Ruko. He asked what he wanted to tell him. Lengxi said that he had heard that he wanted to become the strongest shield warrior. He asked if it was true. Ruko smiled and said that it was true. He said that he wanted to stand in front of his team, proudly holding his head and chest straight, and rushing forward, taking all the damage for his team. He asked if he thought it was cool. Ruko said that he wants it even in his dreams. He asked if he had seen a shield warrior in the first place guild who was nicknamed Heavenland's #1 shield. He yelled out that he wanted to be just like him and saw one of his group battle videos. She said that he was very cool taking damage from 10 thieves. Lengxi exhaled and thought that it had started again. He said he wanted to ask you something. Ruko came to his senses and turned his attention to him. The main character asked if he had any special attributes or skills. Ruko thought about it. Lengxi thought that this guy's name was the same as the so-called Sacred Mountain Ruko, one of Heavenland's 6 divine shields in his previous life. He thought that if he really was Sacred Mountain Ruko, then he must have some special attributes or skills. Ruko asked if being an introvert counted. He said he didn't think so, and kept thinking. The main character wondered if it was too early, and maybe he didn't have any special attributes or skills yet. Ruko said he's not sure if this counts and he doesn't know what the benefits are. The main character asked him that he didn't know what the use of it was. He asked if it was a skill. Ruko replied that it was a blessing. He said it was a blessing called bravery. The main character asked about the blessing and thought that the legend he had heard about in his previous life was true. In the game Heavenland, there are countless unknown special skills, equipment, and additional attributes. Any player has a chance to get a mysterious reward from the task in the game by conquering this place. Ling Si smirked and thought that if the blessing Ruko was talking about was really one of them, then it could really be Sacred Mountain Ruko. Ruko said that he got a strange task on the 3rd level, and after completing it, he got this thing called bravery, but he doesn't know how to use it. The main character asked if this blessing has a description. Ruko replied that he would look at it now. The dialogue box says, "Blessing bravery. Be fearless and stand tall like a mountain that pierces the clouds." Ruko called out to Ling Si. He shouted that there were many people ahead. The guy asked if it was the thief. Folding his arms across his chest, the elf-eared guy said that he never thought that he would have the guts to use such pathetic tricks to defame their guild's name and even kill the vice captain. He said it was information that the temporary vice captain had given them. Ling Si thought that he didn't expect to meet the trio here. Someone told the main character that they met again. He noticed the voice. Standing in front of him was Bai Lai, who asked with a smirk if he remembered him. The main character noticed that he had become a temporary vice captain. Bai Lai said that he told him that he would take revenge. Ruko asked what they should do. He said there were a lot of them. The main character told him to calm down. He asked if he wanted to feel even better than he had recently. Ruko hesitantly said that he wanted to, but there are too many enemies here. Ling Si told him to relax because he was already prepared for an intense fight with them. Ruko asked why, and if they weren't throwing away their lives. The main character replied that he wanted to confirm the benefits of his blessing. He said that if they succeeded, it would be worth it even if they died. Ruko asked about the benefits of his blessing. Tiana's voice came out of the dialogue box and she shouted for them to wait there. Ling Si asked where they were. A guy nearby shouted at the others to run away as he ran and said that the Wolf's Fang people were pressing them down again with their numerical advantage. Tiana said they weren't far away. Glancing at the red dust cloud, they noticed Tiana and the rest of the group running towards them. The main character asked why they came. Ruko was crying, happy that they had come and saying that there were too many enemies here. Dira told him to stop crying. Tiana replied that she had received a message that a large group from Wolf's Fang was going towards the central area and thought that they had surrounded them. The main character asked if he had told them to stay put. Tiana interrupted him and said that he was their captain in this guild war. Frowning, she asked if he wanted them to ignore the lives of their teammates. Ling Si looked at her in surprise after hearing about her teammates. He thought that he had leveled up alone in his previous life and had long forgotten the warm feeling from that word. Closing his eyes, he smiled and said that they should prepare because it would be a difficult battle. Bai Lai told Tiana that she was still protecting this thief. She noticed his voice, and the protagonist turned around. They recognized Bai Lai in front of them. He said with a frown that, after all, they had no choice but to become enemies. Tiana shouted at him that he had betrayed Nebulous. Dira, cursing, said that he really became a Wolf's Fang dog. Bai Lai replied that they can say whatever they want because all he is interested in is revenge. He pointed his hand forward and a crowd of people charged. He shouted at them not to let Nebulous look down on them. Dira ordered everyone to prepare for battle. Fire projectiles hit the ice barrier. Dira shouted to Tiana about the danger from behind, hitting the fireball with her sword. She yelled at her to keep a close eye on the situation behind her and said that she would hold them up in front. Tiana agreed and said that she would cast a magical flower shield on her. The guy with the white wizard hat told them that they should just give up peacefully because he didn't want others to say that he was ruthless towards women. The beastmen agreed and invited them to join Wolf's Fang. Fire shells are flying in the air. Dira shouted at them to be quiet and called them cowards, frowning. She swung her sword to deflect the fire shells, and the guy shouted that they couldn't kill her right away because she had a shield. Dira asked them with a crazy smile that they were going to kill her instantly. After hitting the ground, she used Great Sword's punishment and asked who they thought they were. The energy from the sword struck the beastman, and he coughed up blood. The guy in the wizard hat shouted that she was an attack-type warrior. Tiana praised Duru and said that she would take over this side and the magic attacks wouldn't be able to harm them for a while. Several guys appeared above Tiana, and one of them asked if they had forgotten about the thieves' physical attacks. He used a joint backstab. Ruko used shield leap. Once between the thief and the surprised Tiana, he shouted at them not to even think about injuring his companions. Ruko frowned. The guy swore at him and urged him to kill him. The main character jumped up behind him and asked if he thought it was a little rude to bully a girl and a child. The boy's eyes widened in fright and his mouth opened. The main character swung the dagger and used air slice. It hit 3 opponents, dealing them critical damage. Dira called out that they were finally here. She said there were too many enemies and she wouldn't be able to hold them all for long. The blonde-haired guy asked if they were okay. Tiana said they were able to fight. The blonde-haired guy shouted that their attacks were too strong and he had used almost all of his recovery potions. Tiana shouted for everyone to come to her and used mid-rank magic shield, vine cage. They were under a green magic dome. Ruko exclaimed enthusiastically that Tiana knows mid-rank spells. Dira said that she also knows a high-rank destructive spell and she just can't use it in this situation. The blonde-haired guy let out a sigh of relief and said that with this, they would be able to take a break and not worry about magic attacks. The main character said that mid-rank magic shield is not bad. The dark-haired guy said that when the enemy arrived, they would either have to figure out how to break through their ranks or escape. The blonde-haired guy replied that with Ling Si, they would be able to brag about it for the rest of their lives if they could somehow get out. The main character noticed something. An ice arrow pierced through the shield, and Tiana's eyes widened in shock. An arrow went through the shoulder of a guy with blonde hair, and she said he was shot. He slowly started to close his eyes. A guy with dark hair shouted to heal him. Someone shouted no. Placing a hand on Bailai's shoulder, the guy praised him. He said that he didn't expect their combined attack to produce such an explosive attack. Bailai thanked the division captain for his trust. He said with a serious face that he was very familiar with Tiana's magic shield, and normal spells would take a long time to break it, but his shield breaker arrow, together with a strong shot from an ally, could easily destroy it. The vein on his face bulged and he thought that he would definitely make Ling Si and Tiana die here today, and no one would leave here alive. Dira asked what they should do because the enemy was advancing. The guy with dark hair used healing magic on the guy with blonde hair. Tiana shouted for everyone to hold their formation and draw out time for the healers. A guy wearing a white wizard's hat shouted that the magic shield was broken. He said that their skills were most likely on cooldown and they should use this opportunity to attack. Ruko shouted that they were coming. The main character called out to him. Ruko responded. Ling Si took off his mask and said that he needed him to do something. He said that he would go kill someone and he should stay here and protect their comrades. Ruko stuttered and said that he couldn't, there were too many enemies here and he couldn't do it without him. Ling Si said that if he wanted to become the strongest shield he dreamed of, then he needed to be brave and stand in front of his allies. He told him to show them his bravery. The main character rushed forward with a dagger in his hand. Dira asked about the fact that he was running towards the enemy alone. Tiana said it looked like it. The guy with dark hair said that he jokes about them even before he dies, leaving Ruko to protect them. Ruko thought about how he is a coward who only knows how to cry when he is afraid. Someone shouted to be careful, because the enemies use a rain of arrows and long-range magic attacks. Ruko, surrounded by flying arrows and magic projectiles, wondered where he could get this courage from. Someone said they were dead and there were too many attacks. Dira, fending off the magic projectiles with her sword, shouted hold the formation. Tiana covered herself with a blue shield and said that the enemies were planning to exhaust them with ranged attacks. The guy with the bow asked Ruko what he was doing. He shouted for him to quickly hide behind. Ruko, putting down the shield on the ground, thought that he was afraid. Tiana asked Ling Si if he could hear her. She shouted that they were being attacked with ranged attacks, and they wouldn't be able to hold out for long. Ruko's head shows that he has little health. He thought that he didn't want to lose his allies. Frowning with tears in his eyes, he raised his head. The dialogue box above his head reads, "Be fearless and stand tall like a mountain that pierces the clouds." Ruko screamed, shrouded in yellow energy. The dialogue box reported that the bravery blessing had been awakened. The voice shouted for everyone to change their target and ignore the other nebulous members. He shouted to attack the giant beast that appeared out of nowhere. Ruko turned into a giant monster with huge hands. The main character turned around, noticing a huge cloud of dust. Smiling, he thought that he was right. He thought that he had to force it into a dead end to activate the blessing. Ling Si thought he had hit the jackpot. He thought that Ruko was indeed one of the 6 divine shields from his previous life, Sacred Mountain, Ruko's own. Bailai asked in surprise what it was. The guy in the wizard's hat asked if it was a player and where the thing came from. The guy in the white hat asked if this boss-like thing was a member of the Nebulous Guild. A guy with long hair asked Bailai what it was. Bailai replied in shock that he couldn't tell them even if they asked because he had never seen this person in Nebulous. Dira, standing behind the huge Ruko, asked if it was Ruko. He stamped his foot on the ground and clenched his hands into fists. Ruko smiled ominously. Hitting the ground, he used Destructive Field. One of the opponents shouted to leave the area quickly. The hooded guy tried to say something, but he cried out in pain as the yellow energy enveloped him. The guy said that this zone would slow down their speed. Another guy reported to the captain that their formation was broken. He shouted that he was too strong and asked if they should retreat. Bailai told them not to panic. He asked if they had forgotten all the bosses they had fought that were bigger than anything. He asked why they were afraid of him because he was slightly bigger than normal players. The guy with the elf ears on the back gritted his teeth. He shouted that this thing was most likely an opponent who had a special skill or something. He shouted that they should keep attacking, and the others would cover them with ranged attacks. The guy obeyed. While shooting the ice bow, Bailai said that no matter how big he was, he would die here today. Dira shouted that a new war of ranged attacks was coming. The guy with the bow said that he couldn't handle it with his health level. The guy with the dark hair said that he had mana left and couldn't use a group healing spell. Dira said that they would have to dodge them with their skills. An ice arrow flew towards Ryuko. He raised his hand, and a column of yellow energy shot up. Dira and Tiana noticed this and realized that it was a buff. Tiana noticed the effect above her head and exclaimed that their physical and magical defenses had been raised by 50%. Ryuko slammed his huge hand on the ground. Raising his hand, he looked ahead with a frown and used a meteorite grenade. He threw a huge rock at the opponents. Bailai and the others looked on in surprise. The guy with the elf ears asked why they were just standing still as he ran away. He shouted at them to dodge. A rock hit the ground and they fell off the cliff. The guy with the elf ears shouted at them to pass on the order, kite the enemies and attack them instead of just standing still. Bailai asked irritably after noticing the area attack, "What is this thing?" He shouted that his plans were ruined because of him. His eyes widened in surprise when the main character appeared behind him. His eyes bulged in anger, and he thought it was a familiar feeling. Opening his mouth in surprise, he realized that this was Ling Si. The main character plunged a dagger into his chest. He frowned calmly. The guy in the white hat shouted Bailai to reorganize the formation. He shouted that they needed 1 ranged attacker and 3 shield warriors in each group. He asked if he could hear him. Bailai shouted let him go. The guy looked away in surprise. The main character used flow and ran forward without removing the dagger from Bailai's chest. Bailai cursed at him. He pushed the guy in front of him forward with it. After throwing them down, the main character said goodbye to them and said that he hoped they would have a good time in hell. The guy with the elf ears asked why the formation hadn't been formed yet. He asked where everyone was and called out Bailai. A vein in his face bulged, and he asked if they were dead, demanding to know. Ling Si appeared next to him and he said that he was right and they were dead. The guy gritted his teeth and said that he didn't seem to be able to wait for his death by attacking him like this. With a swing of his sword, he struck the ground. He told him to die with a grin. The main character behind him asked him about how he still didn't recognize him. He used evil spirits and visibility. The fake Ling Si's face turned into a terrifying monster face. The main character asked the guy if he remembered the skill book he picked up. He said that the skill he got from it is called Evil Spirits Invisibility. The guy exclaimed in surprise that he was the guy who received the curse. The main character smirked and said in his ear that today he would let him enjoy the fear of this skill. He mockingly bid him farewell and used Shadow Flash Blink. The boy shouted, his eyes bulging. Tiana asked Ling Si where he was. She told him to quickly retreat because there were a lot of people from Wolf's Fang approaching them. The main character agreed and said that he would join them later. He suggested that we step back for now. With the help of Ruko's defense, they were able to retreat from the enemy's attacks. And in the meantime, with Ruko's protection and the help of others, Tiana managed to buy enough time to cast the Skypiercer High Wound spell, thus allowing the group to successfully retreat to safety. The battles that occurred in the monthly guild war and that mysterious figure with a huge body became a topic of discussion among everyone once the monthly guild war was over. Even though Nebulous is still ranked 5th in the guild ranking, their group took the first place, beating the second place by getting twice as many points. However, right after the monthly guild war ended, every player in the game received a message from the system at the same moment. The dialog box reads, Public Announcement. Congratulations to a level 15 Dark Lions player for becoming the first Heavenland player to successfully switch professions and become the first awakened with a high 99% chance of awakening.